What if I told you that some of Africa's most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, not inside banks, not inside skyscrapers, but beneath deserts, forests, mountains, rivers, and even ordinary-looking farmland? Africa is home to enormous deposits of gold, cobalt, lithium, diamonds, oil, natural gas, copper, uranium, and other valuable minerals. Yet, the biggest mystery isn't how much wealth Africa possesses. The real question is why so much of that wealth has not translated into widespread prosperity. The real question is why so much of that wealth has not translated into widespread prosperity. For centuries, Africa's natural resources have attracted traders, governments, investors, and powerful industries from around the world. But the story is much bigger than mining. Africa's wealth also includes farmland, oceans, energy, tourism, technology, and perhaps its greatest resource of all, its people. Today, we're going to uncover $10 billion secrets that could shape Africa's economic future. And the most important one may be the resource that cannot be dug out of the ground. Africa is not simply rich in minerals. In many cases, it possesses some of the most strategically important mineral resources on Earth. Take the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It is one of the world's most important sources of cobalt, a mineral used in batteries and modern technology. Then there is copper. Across parts of Zambia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo lies the famous Copper Belt, an area containing enormous copper resources. Reduction, and then there are diamonds. Botswana, Angola, Namibia, South Africa, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have all played major roles in the global diamond industry. The value of these resources can reach billions of dollars. But owning a resource underground does not automatically make a country wealthy. The real money comes from everything surrounding the resource: mining equipment, transportation, processing, refining, manufacturing, technology, and skilled workers. That is why Africa's greatest opportunity may not simply be extracting more resources. It may be learning how to capture more of the value created from those resources. Now, imagine a resource that has become essential to electric vehicles, batteries, smartphones, and energy storage: lithium. As the world moves toward electric transportation and renewable energy, demand for battery minerals has increased dramatically. Zimbabwe has become an important lithium producer in Africa. Countries including Namibia, Mali, Ghana, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have also attracted growing interest from investors and mining companies. But lithium is only one piece of the puzzle: cobalt, copper, graphite, manganese, nickel. All of these minerals can play important roles in modern technology and energy systems. And Africa has significant resources of several of them. This creates an extraordinary opportunity. But there is a major challenge. If Africa exports raw minerals, other countries can capture much of the value through processing and manufacturing. Imagine a mineral leaving Africa as a raw material, then being refined somewhere else, turned into components in another country, and finally becoming part of a product worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The question becomes simple: why shouldn't more of that value be created inside Africa? The battery revolution could therefore become more than a mining opportunity. It could become an industrial opportunity. Africa and gold have been connected for centuries. But the scale of the modern gold industry is easy to underestimate. Ghana, is one of Africa's major gold producers. South Africa became famous for enormous gold discoveries that transformed the country's economy and helped build Johannesburg. Mali and Tanzania are also important gold-producing countries. But there is another side to Africa's gold industry: artisanal and small-scale mining. Millions of people across Africa depend directly or indirectly on small-scale mining for their livelihoods. Gold can pass through complex networks involving miners, traders, exporters, refiners, and international buyers. This creates a massive economic ecosystem, but it also creates challenges: illegal mining, environmental damage, unsafe working conditions, smuggling, and a lack of transparency can prevent governments and communities from receiving the full value of the resource. If mining becomes safer, more formalized, and better connected to local processing industries, more wealth could potentially remain within producing countries. Because the real question isn't simply how much gold Africa produces. The real question is, who benefits from it? Africa possesses enormous oil and natural gas resources. Nigeria, Angola, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, and several other countries have built major energy industries. Meanwhile, newer gas developments in countries such as Mozambique, Senegal, and Mauritania have attracted international attention. The potential is enormous. Energy can generate government revenue. It can support industries. It can create jobs. And it can power cities. But Africa faces a remarkable paradox. The continent has enormous energy resources, while many people have historically lacked reliable access to electricity. That means Africa's energy opportunity is about more than exporting oil and gas. The bigger opportunity is using energy to build economies. Factories need electricity. Hospitals need electricity. Schools need electricity. Businesses need reliable power. Mines need energy. And modern digital industries need enormous amounts of electricity. If Africa can combine its energy resources with infrastructure and industrial investment, energy could become the foundation of a much larger economic transformation. When people talk about Africa's resources, they often focus on minerals. But one of Africa's greatest assets is something much more familiar: land. Africa has enormous agricultural potential, and its population is growing. That combination creates one of the world's most important future food markets. West Africa is famous for cocoa. Ethiopia is known for coffee. Kenya is a major tea producer and has developed important agricultural export industries. Several African countries are major producers of cashews, fruits, flowers, grains, and other agricultural products. But here's the hidden opportunity. The biggest money may not be in growing the crop. It may be in processing it. Instead of exporting raw cocoa, countries can develop chocolate industries. Instead of exporting raw agricultural products, they can build food processing businesses. Instead of selling unprocessed coffee beans, they can develop roasting, packaging, and global brands. Every additional stage creates potential economic value. So, Africa's agricultural future may not simply depend on growing more food. It could depend on building entire industries around the food it already produces. Now, look away from the land. Look toward the ocean. Africa has thousands of kilometers of coastline and access to some of the world's most important maritime routes. This creates what is often called the blue economy. Fishing is already important. But the opportunity goes much further. Ports, shipping, aquaculture, marine tourism, offshore energy, logistics, coastal infrastructure. Africa's geographic position gives it access to major international trade routes connecting Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and the Americas. Major ports can become more than places where ships load and unload cargo. They can become industrial centers. Warehouses can be built nearby. Manufacturing can develop around ports. Logistics companies can expand. Trade can accelerate. And new businesses can emerge. The ocean may, therefore, become one of Africa's most valuable economic assets, not because of what is simply in the water, but because of what Africa's position on the global map makes possible. There is another billion-dollar asset hiding in plain sight. Africa's landscapes and wildlife. Think about the Serengeti, the Masai Mara, Victoria Falls, the Sahara, Zanzibar, the mountains of Rwanda and Uganda, South Africa's cities and vineyards, Morocco's historic cities and landscapes. Africa offers experiences that are difficult to replicate anywhere else in the world. Tourism can also spread economic benefits across communities. Hotels need workers. Restaurants need suppliers. Tour operators need drivers and guides. Airports need employees. Local businesses can sell products and services. And conservation areas can create economic incentives to protect wildlife. But tourism requires more than beautiful destinations. It requires infrastructure, reliable transportation, air connections, safety, marketing, hotels, and well-designed tourism systems. The opportunity is enormous because, unlike a mineral deposit, a successful tourism industry can generate economic activity year after year. Now, we reach perhaps the most important secret. Africa's greatest resource may not be underground. It may be its people. Africa has one of the youngest populations in the world. Over the coming decades, hundreds of millions of young Africans will enter the workforce and consumer economy. That creates a massive opportunity. But young people alone do not create wealth. They need education, skills, healthcare, infrastructure, technology, access to capital, and most importantly, jobs. Across Africa, entrepreneurs already building businesses in financial technology, telecommunications, e-commerce, logistics, entertainment, software, and other industries. Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Ghana, Rwanda, and many other countries are developing technology and startup ecosystems. The next billion-dollar African company may not come from a gold mine. It may come from a smartphone, a financial platform, a logistics network, a healthcare company, an entertainment business, or an idea that has not even been invented yet. Africa's young population could become one of the biggest economic forces of the 21st century. What is the real secret behind Africa's enormous wealth? It isn't simply gold. It isn't oil. It isn't lithium. It isn't farmland. And it isn't tourism. The real secret is value creation. Africa already possesses extraordinary resources. The question is what happens after those resources are discovered. A mineral can be extracted in Africa, then shipped abroad, refined somewhere else, turned into components in another country, and finally sold as an expensive product somewhere around the world. At every stage, value is added. The challenge for Africa is to capture more of those stages. The same is true for agriculture, energy, tourism, technology, and manufacturing. Africa's future will depend not only on what it is underground, but on what it can build above ground. Factories, companies, infrastructure, technology, universities, financial systems, and industries capable of transforming raw resources into finished products. For decades, Africa has often been described through what it lacks. But that story is incomplete. Africa has enormous mineral wealth, huge energy potential, massive agricultural opportunities, strategic coastlines, world-class tourism assets, a rapidly growing consumer market, and a young population with the potential to transform all of these advantages into something much bigger. The question is no longer whether Africa has wealth. It clearly does. The question is what Africa will do with it. Will raw materials continue to leave the continent while most of the value is created elsewhere? Or will Africa increasingly process its resources, build industries, create companies, and turn its enormous potential into lasting prosperity? The answer could shape not only Africa's future, but the future of the global economy, because beneath Africa's soil, across its oceans, inside its cities, and among its people, there are still billions of dollars of possibilities waiting to be unlocked. Africa's greatest secret may be that its biggest economic story hasn't happened yet, and perhaps we are only beginning to see it.